Hello, and thank you for joining us for a special online exclusive from this year's Fabric Arts Festival. My name is Patti Rego, and I am, among other things, Fall River's self-proclaimed chief city cheerleader and content curator at We Love Fall River, a social media movement showcasing positive stories about economic development, community initiatives, and arts and culture in Fall River. Today's discussion is titled Viva Fall River. Viva is an exclamation of vigor and perseverance. It translates into long live. So, Viva Fall River is a spirited cry for the longevity and prosperity of the city of Fall River. I also interpret it as a battle cry for those of us who are working on various initiatives that endeavor to strengthen the community and ensure that it not only survives, but thrives economically, environmentally, artistically, culturally, and socially. We have a stellar panel of individuals who all work on initiatives that are enriching the Fall River community. I'm just going to do brief introductions. So when I say your name, if you could just give a wave. I know everybody's name is up, but hello. So our first guest is Sarah Labossiere, who's with the Fall River Health and Human Services Department as the coordinator of Fall River Mass in Motion, where she's been since September of last year. Mass in Motion is a statewide movement to prevent obesity in Massachusetts by increasing opportunities for healthy eating and active living in the places we live, learn, work, and play. Fall River was an original member of the movement, which launched in 2009 and was instrumental in establishing the Quequechan River Rail Trail, Bike Fall River, and other efforts to improve community health. Welcome, Sarah. We look forward to hearing from you today. Speaking of the Quequechan River Rail Trail, the official name of the trail is the Alfred J. Lima Quequechan River Rail Trail, and I am absolutely thrilled to have Mr. Lima on the panel today. It was his inspiration and design that was the catalyst for this 1.4-mile multi-use path that is one of Fall River's true gems. Mr. Lima is a Fall River native known for his tireless efforts in historical research and publications, preservation, and the conservation in the natural environment. He was a leader of the citywide campaign to pass the Community Preservation Act in Fall River, and among his environmental accomplishments was a leadership role in the creation of the Southeastern Massachusetts Bioreserve, a 15,000-acre preserve within the city of Fall River. So glad you could join us today, Mr. Lima. The next person I would like to introduce is Jim McKeag, who is the Fall River Fellow for Mass Development's Transformative Development Initiative, better known as TDI. Mass Development is the state's quasi-governmental economic development and finance agency that works to stimulate business, drive economic growth, and help communities thrive across Massachusetts. In his role, Jim works with local partners to advance economic development priorities within the Fall River TDI district, which encompasses roughly 2 large downtown blocks. Jim is originally from Worcester, Massachusetts, and was previously the TDI Fellow for New Bedford, Massachusetts, a South Coast city that has experienced both cultural and economic resurgence in the past decade. Full disclosure, I have the pleasure of working with Jim on the Fall River TDI initiative. Thank you for being here, Jim. I know how busy you are. Next up, another very busy person, Michael Benevides, co-owner of Portugalia Marketplace, which is another Fall River gem and an absolute must visit for both regional foodies and culinary connoisseurs from all over the country and probably all over the world. Last year, he also opened Artigouge, which is a concept boutique offering unique gifts from specialized Portuguese artisans. Michael is also one of the main reasons that we're even here today. He's the impetus for the Fabric Arts Festival and has been integral in its development. He's a humble gent, so I won't go on and on, but Michael is a huge supporter of arts and culture in Fall River and the South Coast region, serving on several boards, including that of Massachusetts Design, Art and Technology Institute, or DATMA, which presents contemporary art with the convergence of design, art, and technology. Always a pleasure, Michael. And last but not least, speaking about contemporary art, we have a pioneering pair that I have coined the king and queen of the Fall River art scene, Gould Harvey IV and Brittni Harvey. They are the founders of the newly created Fall River Museum of Contemporary Art, or FR-MoCA, which opened to the public last Friday as part of the Fabric Arts Festival. I've mentioned Fall River Gem a few times already, and this artist-run institution will undoubtedly join that list. Both are Fall River natives and internationally exhibited artists who are both living and working in Fall River. I'm so glad that you could both join us for this discussion. So, enough of hearing my voice. On to the conversation. I'd like to start off with a question about Fall River as a walkable city, which a lot of people might not see it as, but we're going to tell them why it is. When we talk about what makes a community strong, we must consider the health of the community, not just the economic viability, but also the actual physical health of the community. Fall River is not necessarily perceived as a walkable city, though it is. And there's been a lot of work in the last at least 5 years to make strides toward getting people to experience the city by foot. Mr. Lima, I'd like to start with you. Can you talk a little bit about the catalyst for the creation of the Quequechan River Rail Trail and what its intended role is for the community? What's great about the trail? Tell us about it.
Well, you know, the rail trail. Yes, I did.
Okay.
The rail trail was started about several years ago, and it really brought a sort of a rather poor river, Quequechan River, and made it into something beautiful. Really, it really transformed that area in a way which we hadn't known before. And it started in 4 phases, and the first 3 phases have been completed, and we're working on the fourth phase now. But I'd like to maybe pass it over to Sarah Labossiere to have her give a more in-depth evaluation of what we're doing. Sarah?
Sure. Sarah, you're on mute. I'm sorry. Somebody had to do
practice.
it. Somebody had to do it.
You're welcome. The Alfred J. Lima Quequechan River Rail Trail, as Al said, does follow along the river and showcases the river as part of the heritage of Fall River. Very important. It's an oasis in an area, in an urban area, and it's wonderful. You can see people walking along the trail, biking, rolling, running, all throughout the year. In winter, and the Department of Community Management is also willing to plow it when we have snow. So that's a wonderful thing. They help maintain it and keep the some of the grasses mowed, but there's a lot of trees and bushes and plantings and lovely waterfowl and things to enjoy all along the trail. It does, you had mentioned maybe 1.4, but with the Rodman Spur and the section that goes behind Britland Park, it's actually more like 2.5 miles if you did all of the sections. And as Al mentioned, we're very excited to be reinvigorating the phase 4, beginning talks, continuing talks. The talks have begun a long while ago, but funding is an issue as always. But we're excited to be possibly adding to the length of the trail with phase 4 in one section, and then also adding some new sections up to the Westport line and possibly into some neighborhoods, the South Watuppa Spur. It's very important to get the trail from that original urban footprint into the neighborhood so people can access it more equitably and not have to drive and park. They can leave right from their own neighborhoods. That's one of the major goals of this trail, as well as future trails that we have already in the plans with Al's wonderful guidance and vision. You can see behind me his that longer piece is his rendering of the Quequechan Greenway, and he just does gorgeous work, and it's such a privilege to be able to feed off of that and just benefit from his vision. So another of his visions is the Mount Hope Bay Greenway, which will follow the Taunton River, and that's an exciting future project. I'm not sure what else you would like to know. I can go in many different directions about the rail trail.
Well, I actually, when you were speaking about it being an oasis within an urban environment, I can forgive me for not knowing the name of the award, but I do recall reading maybe last year the trail was up for a national award as being like a public space within. It has to be a public space within 10 miles of. Am I getting that?
I'm not surprised. However, maybe Al remembers, as you had mentioned, I've only been on the job for about a year.
I'm putting you on the spot.
I know. I wish I knew that.
I know. I wish I had remembered to look it up.
I know it did receive an award from the Urban Land Institute for.
I think that's what it was.
Yes.
Thanks, Jim.
So, that's wonderful. I'm on the trail very often with my child, and it's really nice to see people utilizing it, walking. Somebody was walking a cat the other day, which I hadn't seen before. I can honestly say that being from Fall River and living here, the trail was an amazing surprise. And whenever you walk down it, there's always a surprise. There's always, whether it be wildlife, and then you look right over and there's the interstate. So it's a really nice mesh of still retaining, that you can see the old mills in the distance, but it has a great feeling of transporting people to another place. And so I really think it's an amazing place. Sarah, I also wanted to, now you're Mass in Motion, so I know that has a lot to do with getting people out there and doing the very things that we're talking about, the walking and whatnot. And you have only been on the job for a year, so I'm sure that there were plans that you went into 2020 wanting to do that have had to, for lack of a better word, pivot.
Yes.
That's the word for 2020. Can you tell us a little bit about the goals that you have now and how Mass in Motion has been responding to the Fall River community as you've learned about the Fall River community and as things have changed and their needs have changed? If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Mass in Motion has twin strategies, twin foci. One is healthy eating and the other is active living. So as far as pivoting, I definitely would say my focus leaned more towards the healthy eating and actually food security during this COVID time. I'm very involved with reducing the SNAP gap and helping people access their SNAP benefits, formerly called food stamps, if you're not aware what that program is, and especially the Healthy Incentives Program, which is termed HIP, and that is a way for families who are already receiving SNAP benefits. They automatically receive the HIP benefits, and they most of the time don't know it. It's a new program. We're in our fourth year, state funded. Governor Baker has been tremendous about, and also our local representatives have been wonderful, and Senator Roderick's about supporting the HIP program because it is such a wonderful benefit. It allows families to have extra money for fruits and vegetables that they purchase at farmers markets. So it benefits the farmers in the area. It reduces transportation costs and carbon emissions and all those sorts of good things because it's local food, and it just stimulates the economy, and then it helps get healthy fruits and vegetables into the families of people who need it. And they are allowed extra money and through the SNAP program. So that's the HIP program, and I've spent a lot of time on that during COVID. As far as goals that had to pivot, I had definitely set for myself a goal of re-energizing the Walk Fall River movement. And so that will happen. It just had to take a bit of a backseat to the healthy eating portion of my work this year, but that will happen. And especially I would like to get create a greater connection between the urban areas and transporting folks to the wooded areas, because one of my favorite statistics, I don't know if you had planned to mention, and I might just steal it right now, but Fall River is an urban city, but it is really only 50% urban or city proper, and a full 50% is either woods or water, and that is tremendous. And that is a wonderful, amazing resource that so many people are not aware of, and really like to strengthen that connection and get people out to the bioreserve more. Trails, over 50 miles of trails in the bioreserve.
I know that you had I had read doing my research that you had wanted to do a long form over 10-mile exploration of the reservation, which I think is amazing because I've only scratched the surface there. So we would hope that we could do this in 2021, hopefully.
I actually looked at the map this morning. So, should I bring this map? And I chose not to because I would have to hold it up and it would look weird. But yep, that's a commitment for the winter. That's one of my goals.
So continue on the subject of walks for one more moment. Michael, back in January of this year, Fabric hosted a community conversation at Portugalia to get reactions on last year's festival and provide insight on topics for 2020. One thing that was mentioned was the very idea of Fall River as a walkable city, and the Quequechan River and the Wampanoags were mentioned multiple times. And the idea of walking in the city to promote exploration and engagement. This year, you were able to make that happen. And I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about those artistic walks that took place not only downtown, but also on the rail trail, which were quite immersive, and the intention behind them, and just give everybody watching a little bit of a flavor if they missed it.
Yeah, so those, as you tend to talk we had back earlier this year, and one of the takeaways that everyone one of the things that kept coming up in conversation was the fact that people don't walk in this town, and how can we make this town a more walkable town. So our creative team made up of Antonio, Jesse, and Sofia, started to then sort of brainstorm ideas about how do we make people walk in this town. Last year's program, we had a little bit of disbursement throughout the city. We had some events that took place at the Narrows. We had some events that took place in the center. And we were in hopes that people would be able to, go from spot to spot. But
Your connection's slightly unstable, so you may have to just repeat yourself. Okay.
I have the strong. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yep. Okay. Maybe you might have to turn off if it continues. One thing I've learned is if you shut off your video, sometimes that helps. I'm gonna freeze too, so that doesn't look so weird when he freezes.
Fine now. I have strong connection.
You keep going in and out.
How about now?
I could hear you.
Better?
Yeah.
So I was saying that in the last edition of Fabric, I'm able to start video.
It actually sounds, it sounds a lot stronger without the video, but maybe we can pop you back on right after you talk.
Okay, that's fine. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I was saying the previous edition of Fabric, we were trying to get people to walk in. Our team, who is made up of Antonio, Jesse, and Sofia in Portugal. They didn't understand the dynamics in the city, and the city is a pretty small city, relatively speaking. And so we expected people to walk from place to place during the festival last year, and that really didn't materialize. So the conversation happened this year in January, February, when the team visited. Everyone kept bringing up the fact that no one really walks here. So we decided to create these performative walks, which you helped orchestrate, Patti, along the Quequechan rail trail, along with other parts of the city. So it was a way to take in the city through walks, through performance, to experience the city in a sense. So I think that this was I believe a lot of the attendees for these walks were from out of town, along with some locals, but they got to experience a Fall River that even some of the locals don't experience. which is great in the sense that you walk away from this project, from the fabric, experiencing something as unique as these walks, which highlights our history. In the case of Postcard and Fall River, which you did this job, we got a lot of great feedback on. And then the other one by Corey, who her walk was As Water Falls, I believe is the title of that walk.
Yes,
and these were
Corey
walks that
Nuffer.
were envisioned. Correct. And these were walks that were programmed, in a sense, or envisioned by a world-renowned artist, Brazilian artist living in Lisbon, Antonio Gustav Siriac. So that were done with the guides, along with Rhonda Fazio, who created, and Rhonda were on these workshops with Gustav for at least a month. There was a series of conversations that took place, and they started to imagine what these walks could look like. And like I said, the feedback was tremendous on these walks. People really enjoyed, people really engaged. I think there's a future walks for the festival and in the city. So we're very excited to add this component this year to Fabric.
And I should thank you so much. Yeah, they were super fun. I know, Al, you went on one of the walks with Corey Nuffer, which was the she didn't know you were coming. You surprised her, so she's glad that she didn't know ahead of time. She would have been nervous because it was all about reimagining, the falls, and you know so much about the Quequechan. So I hope that you enjoyed it.
No. Yes.
Good. There was also another piece, just to kind of close that out, and then we'll move on. That people, not only were the walks guided, but there's a self-guided component as well from artist Tracy Cockrell, where I went the other day. I was not able to find them. I was in the wrong part of the trail, but people are going to be able to listen to the same thing, the same experience they would have had during the festival, which I think is a really great thing. And I really wish we could do more of that, using QR codes and using that content that people can access at their leisure. People aren't always, it's not always, I mean, we're going to talk about obstacles in Fall River, but one of them is about getting the word out a lot of the times. And so having those permanent installations for people to access at their, when they're ready, is a great way of reaching a lot more people than maybe might feel comfortable coming to a festival or an arts festival.
We also have something, a historical summary of the walk, where you can walk along the path and then be introduced into various historical facts along the river. So that's going to be coming out.
Oh, wonderful.
In a year or two.
Oh, that's exciting. I love that. So moving on, arts and culture can also play a catalytic role in revitalizing neighborhoods and re-engaging communities. Jim, you know this one's for you. Jim, can you give us an overview of some of the public projects that TDI is currently working on downtown, and what those projects are intended to ignite downtown?
Sure. So, we're focused on the area of downtown that's between City Hall and Union Street. So it's that major South Main corridor that traditionally people have thought about as the downtown. It's where the theaters were and the department stores, and so a lot of the work that we're trying to do in that area and even beyond, we say we work with fuzzy boundaries, is really to catalyze some private investment through the investments that we're making across a number of different initiatives. And so the goal is really right now, especially in light of COVID, is to really help the downtown small business community by creating a network of resources that they can take advantage of, both as individual businesses and also, facilitating those physical changes in the environment that help change people's perceptions about the downtown, and that attract people downtown, and that promote the business community in key ways. And so, one of the things that we started with is really building off the success of the district already, focused a lot on Alexandra's, and as this major bridal boutique, and also some of the other businesses that are downtown, like TJ's Music was another one that has seen a lot of success over the years, and wants to continue to grow. And then kind of creating spillover resources. So this partly goes into some of the potential of the district as and even the city, I would say, as sort of a wedding industry cluster, right? We have Alexandra's and a suite of really great florist supplies, where Fall River Florist Supply, Milestones Florist, Main Street Florist, all kind of in that area. You have wonderful folks like Confections Bakery and Time Blossom that do just terrific work for the wedding industry, and EXO the Girls. So there really is like a cluster of folks within the wedding industry that you can build off of, right? So there's all of these spillover businesses that you can imagine that could build off of that, whether it's through women's accessories or men's clothing or photography, alteration shops. So as a catalyst for the development of new businesses, that was one way we started to approach the work we were doing. And we started a pop-up shop, both as a community engagement center and as a way to sort of promote the district in a new way. Unfortunately, we've had to close the shop temporarily due to COVID, but we do have some plans to kind of reopen it in a phased approach.
And the name of the shop is
Viva Fall River. So Viva Fall River has definitely become the rallying cry in a lot of ways, to get people to really see the district and the city more generally in this really positive light, and to really showcase the positive things that are happening in the city. So some of the things that we had wanted to do in that space, were to showcase a lot of the locally manufactured goods. Fall River has just an amazing array of strong boutique manufacturing. It's still one of the gateway cities in Massachusetts where manufacturing comprises a large sector of its workforce.
And a lot of people don't know that, Jim, too, that we found that, people think manufacturing is in the city's past. Perhaps cotton textile is, but there are, like, as you mentioned, quite a few luxury manufacturers that really Fall River is known in a completely different way to a completely different set of people.
That's right, and especially in the soft goods sector, it's still quite alive. I mean, when you think of folks like Marrow Manufacturing, and who relocated from Hartford, to Fall River because of the skill, the skilled workforce here, because of the type of work that they wanted to do. You think of Matute Manufacturing and American Bedding, and I mean, it just, the list goes on and on.
Vanson Leathers.
Frank Clegg. I mean, there's just an incredible list. Corber Hats. It's really amazing when you start looking at just the array and the capabilities that this city has. Someone described it well, I think, by saying that in a lot of ways, Fall River is the sort of makerspace writ large, right? I mean, if you are in the fashion industry or the soft goods industry, you could come to Fall River and take an idea from your drawing board and, prototype it and experiment with it and even scale it to production. You have all the capability here. In terms of manufacturing to make that happen.
And if I could ask you, just segueing into something about manufacturing, I mean, people like skilled laborers. There's also Smokestack Studios who just worked with you recently, I believe, on an incredible parklet. And I feel like that's going to transform downtown and transforms people's perspectives. And I'd love for you to just mention that so that people could learn more about it and come to visit it. Come there. Come to see us.
Thank you for mentioning that. I mean, that's one of the things that we would really, we really want to physically change the downtown in not only ways that change people's perception about it, but that really help the small businesses. And outdoor dining was something that a lot of the businesses said they could use during this difficult time. And so, trying to provide more opportunities for outdoor dining was something that we've been working hard on. We were able to get, one parklet approved and built before the end of the year, and that's on Purchase Street right now. We've gotten a lot of very positive responses, and it's been wildly popular. Right? It's been I guess being used quite a lot.
It's very Instagrammable. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
I've seen it a lot on Instagram.
Definitely been making its way onto social media. So we would like to do a lot more of those if possible, you know, with the right support from the community. If folks, you know, and folks are saying they would like to see more, you know, we would like to have an array of those kinds of outdoor dining facilities, you know, throughout the South Main District, throughout the North Main District, to really benefit the restaurant community. And you know, not only I think are they beautiful in and of themselves, but you know, sometimes there's a resistance to taking away parking, and so one of the things that you know we're trying to show is that sometimes 2 parking spaces are better used to house 12 plus customers for a local restaurant than 2 cars, and we can do it in a way I think that can make a big impact on the visual, you know, the aesthetics of a neighborhood. But you know, really the most important piece is really to create an opportunity for these businesses to serve more customers, and so you know, all of those together I think are really important. You know, that you do something that directly benefits the businesses, but you try to do it in a way that, you know, are changing, you know, people's perceptions about downtown, so they're more willing to come downtown, more willing to experiment, more willing to try new places, and, you know, that you are also, you know, really, you know, providing opportunities for the businesses so that they can stay alive during this really difficult time. So I think all of those things compound each other. And yeah, we would like to do more of those kinds of projects. We would also, you know, like to support, you know, larger scale public improvements, whether, you know, they intersect a lot with the conversation, you know, we just had with Al and Sarah and Michael about, you know, walking and biking and connecting to other resources. You know, one of the things about South Main is it's just really well situated as a connecting area to other parts of the city in the downtown, whether that's, you know, the Bank Street area and the Bedford Street area where, you know, Portugalia is, and there's a great connection to the rail trail, whether that's down Anawan and Pecasset, you know, toward the waterfront and the wonderful resources down there, whether it's toward Kennedy Park, you know, whether it's going through Corky Row and that corridor, you know, going up President's Ave there. Sorry, it was not President's Ave.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess all these projects, I think, they not only revitalize neighborhoods, but they also can create a sense of revitalized community. And I just want to make sure that we get to the king and queen of the Fall River art scene. So please, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna switch over really quickly. So like I was saying, arts and culture can also unify a community, inspire action, and give insight into other cultures and perspectives. And talking about imagination and innovation, like as Jim was talking about with the parklet, I think one of the most imaginative things to come in a long time is the FR Mocha. And Harry and Brittni, I would love for you to talk to us a little bit about why you created it, why you created it as an artist-run institution specifically, and what role you hope to play in the community, in a community that maybe isn't, you know, used to contemporary art, or maybe doesn't realize, you know, what contemporary art even is. So I'm really interested to hear all about your inspiration.
Yes, you want to start? So Brittni and I both grew up in the region, kind of like more socioeconomically depressed family structures, and we're both creative individuals. She came through the public school system, then went to CCRI, then URI, and ended up graduating RISD. I am a self-taught artist. I actually have no higher education other than my lived experience, but I think that's pretty relevant to a lot of people in Fall River who have this kind of lived experience that's worth like years of education. So in kind of starting this project, we started to think to ourselves, like, how could we make art accessible in a way and relative to our lived experience as people from Fall River, but also kind of make it more ecologically minded, and not just environmentally, but socially ecologically minded. And that's kind of like the impetus for us to kind of create this institution that serves its host community in a little bit more of a less exclusive way that a lot of like museums operate on it today. So we originally were started or reached out to by Michael and the team at Fabric Festival, and they asked us like, oh, do you want to curate a couple-day show in a local institution? And we kind of thought about it, and we're like, well, if we have this kind of time frame and we have these opportunities with communication with like the diaspora in Portugal and or the other kind of groups that Fabric Fest connects us with, we might as well kind of make the best of it. So we first got in conversation with Charlie Marrow, and I think and the Marrow Manufacturing, and we saw this kind of what was Entourage, this kind of space that wasn't previously used. I actually used to book punk and hardcore shows next door at the Fall River VFW when I was a teenager, so it's gone kind of full circle. But we started this conversation, and it turned from like a couple-day exhibition that would be open for a month to a couple-day exhibition that was open for 60 days. And then now we have our like a non-collecting non-profit museum with a board established, and we're applying for our nonprofit status with the IRS, and we already have potential funders who are interested in helping support this endeavor. So in this whole kind of like whirlwind of ideas and concepts, we materialized this museum in about 3 weeks. And our whole goal was to try to create a space where, like, for instance, my father and stepmother came. They're both native to Fall River, or at least in proximity around it. My dad used to be the auto parts manager at the AutoZone on the Ave, and my stepmom actually went to an educational, it was like computer education in the Anderson Little building, which is where Marrow Manufacturing is there. My dad had stories about having to buy like husky clothes from Anderson Little. So we were really excited to be able to share our kind of art practice and this kind of conceptual endeavor with our family, because everything previous to this has, for us in our own art careers, has had to kind of try to make people to go to New York, or try to make our family members to go to LA. We just didn't have the economic resources to even make it viable for them. So in that, we really wanted to focus on like accessibility, kind of keep it free and open to the public, and have programming that really relates to either material or genetic histories, and have the artists that are involved have some type of foot or relation to Fall River. So that way we can create, what was it we said, we did, sometimes art can kind of pigeonhole people. So we didn't want to make like a singular pigeonhole. We'd rather make like a dovecoat of multiple holes people could lose themselves in it.
Yeah, and like Harry said, I did kind of traverse these different levels of institutions, starting with community college, going to a state university, and then ending up at a private art institution, all within, you know, a very short distance from Fall River. So I kind of got a sense of the different communities that existed in those different institutions and kind of their economic status and community status. And one thing that I thought was kind of bizarre was the fact that they exist so close together, but there is no crossover of conversation. So, you know, I think Fall River MoCA will be a good platform where we can try to connect those involved at community college with a private institution like RISD. And just, you know, it's all about resources ultimately with these institutions, you know, and I think we can benefit the entire community if we just kind of open up that conversation a little bit more. And I mean, we have experience, I guess, pretty much internationally with our own art practices, but the fact that we couldn't experience anything locally as far as contemporary art.
Yeah, Brittni's mom, who used to be a bartender at the Regatta, now the president.
The Regatta. That's one I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, she had a herself, the Regretta.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say it. I was going to say it, but I wanted you to say it. So
Yeah, so we came to the opening. It was one of the first times that Brittni's mother was able to, who's obviously of a working class background and from the city and of Portuguese descent, and like she had this kind of intimate experience with us where we were able to kind of walk her through the show and share her the different artists and the reason that they made the art. And I feel like even just for us personally, that was really rewarding, because a lot of the times the linguistics surrounding art can already start to become alienating. So we want to work as these kind of intermediates to, we've already had to code switch out of our community in the New York art world or in the Los Angeles art world to be able to find upward mobility and to like accurately kind of communicate what we're trying to do in our own art practices. But we also know how to kind of code switch back to our own kind of mother tongue and explain this institution and what we hope it to kind of do as like a structure that serves the community. I know growing up, we didn't really have, I mean, we spent a lot of time in Fall River, New Bedford as teenagers, playing shows at Gallery X. I ran, I don't know if I should even say it, but it's like I ran an illegal, I guess it's fine now because it's being torn down partially, but I ran like an illegal music venue in the King Phillips Mill with a friend of mine, and we were just
sorry, I missed it.
Well, this is like probably what, 2007, 8, 9?
Yeah.
And we would have like 200-300 people coming down, and like from Brockton and all these kind of surrounding cities. So we're really excited to kind of legitimize the venture and have it more be tightly focused on contemporary art and kind of weaving different artist histories together to ultimately provide space for the youth and for the adults of the region. I think one of the really guiding benefits of us being housed within the Mirror manufacturing facility is that factory workers will have closer proximity to contemporary art than those who have kind of transcended the ivory tower, or for in comparison for those who have had more kind of economic and social resources available to them. So we hope to kind of continue these conversations between like class and art and structural violence, and kind of explain how art can serve as a healing process to all these different kind of social complexities.
I think for a COVID time that we're in, I think it's common to kind of feel out of control and unable to make change because everything is so affected on such a large scale. But I think more and more as we kind of try to find our footing and how we can play our part, it's really been highlighted that your local community, which you're interacting with every day, is really the starting point. So we're really excited that we have this long-term kind of space now with Fall River MoCA, so we can kind of try to make as much change positively that we can. So
yeah, do it is Patti.
Thank you. Am I here?
No, you froze for 1 second, but there you are.
Okay. All right. Jeez. Gosh, I'm going to not move at all for the rest of this time. So I want to we're talking all about positive things, and everything's on the up. So I'm not going to take it in any other direction, but I do want to open this question to anybody on the panel. What is the biggest obstacle or challenge in Fall River's resurgence? And if you'd rather avoid a quagmire and you want to look at it in a different way, what is the potential that we have in this city? So anybody wants to grab onto that
one? I mean, one of the things just in, working in some of the cities that, that I've had the pleasure and honor to do is, I mean, I've always had a thing for smaller post-industrial cities, and I grew up in Western, and from coming out of the shadow of Boston, or the field that I ended up going into, coming out of the trades, was urban planning. And there's it says my internet's unstable. I don't know if you can still hear me. But there's most of the you know, the focus is on the bigger cities, right? The LAs and the New Yorks and the Chicagos and what have you. And, you know, one of the things that I think some of the smaller cities have suffered from is this negative self-perception. Um, and I think that, you know, when that begins to turn, and you kind of crest the hill in terms of the way your own community sees yourself, you know, that usually is a signal that you've turned the corner, at least from my experience. And, you know, the success of cities comes from accentuating who they are, right? It comes from the uniqueness of those cities. It doesn't come from trying to copy what somebody else is doing or trying to be, you know, some other place. You know, so Fall River is going to be successful by being Fall River. Fall River is going to be successful by accentuating and building upon the things and the people that make it unique. And, you know, I just, you know, I can say that I think almost unequivocally. I mean, there's, you know, places succeed because people want to be there, but they also succeed because the people who are already there, like, believe in themselves and invest in themselves, right? That's what makes other people want to come. And it's really, you know, let's make the city good for the people who are already here. And you know, and I think that you know, I'll leave it at that. But I think that's what I've seen in other places that I've seen kind of turn the corner.
That's a wonderful answer, and I couldn't agree with you more. It is, perception is reality, and that's part of the reason why I founded We Love Fall River. I actually co-founded it when I still lived in New York because I believed so much in Fall River, and it really bummed me out to see people who lived here buying into a narrative that other people created, and because you never leave a place, sometimes you don't realize that this place is not unlike many other places out there. People talk about it like it's so terrible, and it's really, really not. There's an amazing sense of community here that I didn't get living in a lot of big cities or living in a lot of places. So and part of my goal is to show people that by embracing that, you start to create that reality, and when we will create a better Fall River. We're already on, I mean, everybody here is already on their way to doing so. I have another question for the panel, and this is a imagine dream with me, and we'll be wrapping up soon. If you could imagine one thing for Fall River, one ideal vision, what would it be? What would you like to see happening in the city that is not currently happening here?
I'd like to offer something.
Yes.
I think that what we really need in the city is something that that's missing here. And I agree with Jim that we don't really do enough urban planning in Fall River, that we need to do more planning. One of the things I like to see is daylighting the Quequechan River. And I think and I'm glad that the Fabric Festival picked up on the idea this year. But it's something which we really, Fall River needs to be known for something. And I think that's the one thing it could be known for. We're called Fall River, but we have no falls to look at and to see. So I think that that's one thing that we really need to work on and to really make happen.
I agree with you, and a lot of other people do too. And I think featuring the falls, Tracy Barboza, a New Bedford artist, just did an amazing projection working with Hirsch Visuals on the facade of the City Hall and it was just really, I mean, seeing it in pictures is one thing, but being there and listening to the sound of the waterfall was just like otherworldly. And I think I've always kind of looked at the hidden falls as like a metaphor for Fall River, about, you know, what's underneath the surface and what we need to bring to the surface and let it out. Would anybody else like to talk about something that they would love to see happen in the city that is not currently happening? I know, I mean, Brittni and Harvey, you made yours. You saw that wasn't happening and you just made yours in 3 weeks. So there's that. And Michael created an international art festival, so I'm clearly behind a little.
One thing that we're really excited about and hope it can kind of continue to further as Fall River up against like a stronghold of the community is recontextualizing the existing community's perception of themselves artistically or creatively, and kind of create avenues of cross-pollination, whether it's like the hundreds of young individuals that are musicians from all the different neighborhoods in Fall River, getting them some type of illuminatory like spotlight through media, or like just helping artists who have been living and working and creating here throughout their whole lives to start to take pride in the fact that we have these really beautiful, colorful lived experiences with different kind of complex economic and social kind of boundaries. I always give this one example, which is kind of like just like a fun example about how we have these you can go to Sam's Bakery in the Flint and get like a Portuguese, Syrian, Lebanese meat pie with chorizo in it. It's like that. It's like kind of like a perfect example of how Fall River has been like kind of this beautiful but messy melting pot of Syrian and Portuguese and Cape Verdean and Cambodian and Irish and Polish, and all kind of working amongst each other as like people from Fall River. And I think recontextualizing even that that melting pot and that kind of messiness of cultures intermingling for hundreds of years is really one of our strengths. So hopefully we can kind of continue to pursue endeavors that recontextualize that for existing communities.
And Sarah, I wanted to get to you too.
Yeah, I'd love to take off a little bit on things that each of the prior people have said in their answers, but I love networking. I love connections. And one of the strengths I see in the city is the strengths of the individual networks. Like I work in the human service field mostly, and the service provider field. That network is fantastic. I had no idea. They have just like rallied and come together during this COVID times. And, you know, the environmental, the people who do environmental work, I know so many different groups that are so strong and cohesive within themselves. The neighborhood groups, I love that all the neighborhoods around Fall River and how they have their own neighborhood associations and they work. So now, and then with the active field, if we want to say the biking and walking groups, my predecessor, Julie Kelly, did tremendous work with routing walking routes within the city, urban routes. And then we've got the bioreserve, and we've got Al's vision of Mount Hope Greenways, which will link the Heritage State Park area with Rhode Island. And then we've between Veterans Memorial Bridge that links over the river into Somerset and Swansea. Like creating a buzz and creating more connection between these groups, cross-pollination, I love that word, you know, musicians and artists and active people and cultural highlights and points of interest within the city. That's what excites me. So I see great potential.
You just got me so excited. It doesn't take much. Final question, and this is a fun question. So we've been doing an awful lot of talking about arts and culture and environment and whatnot, but we've only Harry talked about one thing that Fall River is very well known for, which is its food. So I want to go around really quickly and get an answer from everybody, and I can start about what your favorite restaurant or your favorite food in Fall River is. And like I said, I'll go first. Mine is undoubtedly the chow mein sandwich, the Fall River chow mein sandwich, made with the crunchy humi noodles that are only made in Fall River at the Oriental Chow Mein Company on 8th Street. And I don't care where the sandwich comes from. I just need those noodles. And so that is something I used to like have them shipped to me in New York. No matter where you are, it's all about the noodle. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to put you on the spot, Sarah. I'll go first. I'm going to go around on my screen.
I can't pick just one. I love Nick's Coney Island hot dogs. I love, I just first went to the TA restaurant through Taste Fall River. The best out of all the restaurants I visited, that was my favorite. Wonderful experience. Got to go back. And Sam's Bakery and Mario's also. I can't, there's more, but those are some things off the top of my head.
Those are good. Those are great.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So Michael, you're next. Is he frozen? Is he going to try to get out of this? Oh, we'll never know. We'll never know.
Can you hear me? I had to
Yes.
remove my photo. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this question is definitely going to get me in trouble. Being an importer, a wholesaler of food, Portuguese food, and wholesaling to all the restaurants in town, I can't, namely call out one. So I'll say that they're all great. I like them all for different reasons. And this is a very PC response to that question. Sorry.
The best answer is always your Vivos cooking, your mom's cooking. That's the best. That would have won you big brownie points.
Yeah. Well, that and that along with Portugalia's food.
Yes,
So.
of course. We'd be remiss in saying that. Harry and Brittni, you're up next.
Well, I think I mean, just by the sheer amount of people that we regularly introduce, there would have to be probably Portugalia. Because there's like pescatarian options with like all the different like types of salted cod, those salt cod dishes. There's octopus. The chicken and rice plate is something I ate every single day when I was 15-hour shifts. But
I think also, we just moved to Walnut Street, and right around the corner is Taqueria El Habanero, which is another. Yes.
I love the micheladas there. I'll give myself away.
So
yeah.
good.
Habanero quesadillas and the steak burrito. I
Yeah.
just had one yesterday for lunch, so those are probably. But we also love like Hartley's pork pies and like yes.
All right. Jim, I feel like I might know yours, but I'm going to let you say it.
So, I mean, like the other, I mean, I'm still, before I even started working in Fall River, I'd been coming to Fall River for the food. And I feel like I'm still discovering the food in Fall River. So it's really hard for me, like everybody else, just to choose one. But I mean, I've been coming for years for Sam's Bakery and Hartley's Pies, and can't get enough of them. And the Portuguese food is just there's so much to experience here. And just to tip the hat to a couple of the restaurants in the district, I love TA, I love the Clipper. I think they both have wonderful food. And there's also, Taqueria El Habanero is terrific. I mean, those pupusas, oh my God, those pupusas are incredible. It's just the list goes on and on. I mean, there's that chicken tortilla soup that Tequila Lime does, that's kind of out of this world. And some of the bakeries and Time Blossom and of course Michael, I could never forget about Portugalia. I could live there. So it's wonderful. I mean, I still look forward to exploring more. Patti, I feel like we need to do like the deep, like Fall River food tour.
Deep recon, absolutely. I'm totally on board. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. And Al, you're the last one, but I feel like you've been the Fall River resident the longest, so I'm really interested to hear what your favorite is.
Well, I love Sam's Bakery too. I think it's wonderful. Well, one of the best Portuguese restaurants, I think, is the Cinderella restaurant on Columbia Street. It's no longer Cinderella; it's called something else.
Barca.
But boy,
but yes, that was my spot too.
Great, wonderful. That's my guess. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, we've given people a lot to think about Fall River, a lot to visit, and when they come here, they can eat now. But that concludes our talk, and I'd like to, I think what we should do too is when this gets released, I'd love to be able to get information on how people who are watching can get involved in your organizations. So perhaps if we could put that together, I'll connect with you, and we can make sure that I always want to leave with a call to action, because that's the only way that we're going to continue on this great ride that we've already started. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of this today, and thank everybody who's watching. And yeah, Viva Fall River.
Viva Fall River. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Patti.
Thank you all.